Tonight on Egypt Australia radio show we'll be listening to an evolution podcast from ABC. Also asking a Greek mythology specialist on tonight's topic. Yes, from the sea and ashes, and to sea you shall return. I recently listened to an interview on ABC Radio National Conversation, and a big thanks and courtesy to the ABC. And staying with tonight's segment, which is one question I would have asked in that interview. To our listeners, I want you to tell me if you can see the links between the science of today about how we've evolved, as in the podcast, and our special guest tonight, the Greek mythology, the stories of Poseidon, Atlantis, the sunken city, climate change, rising sun temperature, and the rising sea level. Our segment, which is one question I would have asked in that interview, is if we should start thinking and investing in building cities above and below sea level. So let's begin with tonight's ABC podcast, How a Fish with Tiny Fingers Changed History, Conversations, ABC Radio National. And now let me introduce you to my friend, my dear friend, George Theodoridis. George is a Greek Australian. In fact, we can all see that the man is truly an ancient Greek Australian. George has spent the greater part of his educational years hanging out with such people as Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Euripides, and a whole lot of other such very important Athenians intellectuals. He has translated all of the surviving ancient Greek plays, a great many of the lyrical poets, and some well-chosen delicacies from Plato's huge and magnificent philosophical table. He is a published author and a splendid poet himself, and he spends these days lecturing or tutoring at the U3A, which is the University of the Third Age, a magnificent institution to which I hope all of you listeners out there join. It is truly wonderful. He loves everything he does and does everything to his full ability and to the exhaustion of his energy. Tonight, if he agrees, I'd like him to tell us about the origin of human species, from the mythological eye, the single eye of Cyclops. Greetings, George.
Greetings, Jerry. Look, before we start, can you give me this indulgence? Can I say hello to some of our newest, latest fans? Some of them love you. So can I say hello to them, please?
Of course, George. We at 94.1 FM love new fans. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hello to my friends at U3A, classicists, lovely scholars themselves, full of wonderful questions, who give me a wonderful time whenever I'm with them. Then all of my Facebook friends, you can't not say hello to your Facebook friends. There's 4,000 of the buggers, so I've got to say. But one in particular, Louise Martin, who is quite keen on philosophy and that sort of thing. So, Louise, please listen, because there's going to be an exam after that. Finally, my American friend, you think I've finished here, haven't you? My American friend, Timothy Ray, with whom I Skype at least once a week for a good couple of hours. This is how intensely we love philosophy. And so I say hello to him out there in America land. Okay, so now that's over.
George, yes, thank you so much for mentioning those, Louise, Marta, and the other friend in America. George, I've been struggling with one question, of course, um, and that is where we came from. Can I ask you, George, um, can we just go to the question that is very, every child asks his mum, where do I come from? George?
This is a question that I think really every child since children appeared in the universe have asked their mummy. You can see it in their faces the moment they're born. They say, "What? What? Where am I now? What? Who is he? Who's the manager around here? Come on, what's going on?" So, where did I come from? What is this? So, it is a question that really troubles them and troubles us at that stage. Eventually, it actually troubles us the rest of our lives. Where the hell have we come from? What's the point of all of this? What are we struggling with? You know.
George, but shall we try tonight, right? What do the wise philosophers say about it? Do they perhaps have the answers, George?
Well, yes and no. They have some answers. They can't, for example, they can't. The biggest question that they have is, where did whatever it is that you say has come from? Where did that come from? And so you'll go back, and so on. We will hear from John Rawls soon, but we have at our disposal at the moment, we have Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, that we evolve in a particular way. We evolved from, as John would say, from something that looked like a fish. It wasn't a fish. It wasn't barramundi, right? It wasn't salmon. It wasn't any of that. It was just something aquatic. And from then on, that particular thing crawled out into the solid land. That thing was in the mud, and the mud, this what was called the primal swamp. And swamps are really good for nurturing eggs. That's where it protects them from other species coming in and eating them, and it also gives them the right temperature to grow. So that's where they come from. Now, however, it's and I'm not sure how far we're going to go into this. These species leave their footprint on the land, and the body print on stone and other hard surfaces. And
Yes.
the paleontologists of today come in, look at those, examine them, and then come up with their views, their theories on where we came from. However, the mythological eye is a little different.
George, to our listeners, we have got a quiz on tonight. And we're going to ask a question. What question shall we be asking? Because we've got prizes to give away tonight. Oh, thank you, George. Marble Seasons, I can see, and Euripides, and Volume 3. Okay.
Yes, in it. And I really like the play Medea, the Treasure Medea, and that's why I think it's a fantastic prize.
The winners will get one of the following prizes: George's own poetry, the Marble Seasons, and the other second winner that we have, because we got 2 books to give away to our listeners. The second book is an ancient play by Euripides called Medea, as you've pointed out, George. Now for the question. What is the question? Because 10:30 we'll draw a name and 2 names for these books. What's the question, George?
Well, the question is about the most famous, perhaps, character in tragedy. Who was it who had killed his father, married his mother, and had 4 kids with her, 2 boys and 2 girls? That's the question.
Okay, so if just as a clue to our listeners, if I type in who has killed his father, married his mother, and had 4 children with her, do you think I'll be able to get the answer, George, on your search engine?
I'm sure that you will. But you ought not to. You ought not to go to Google and Google and Google and all the other places looking for answers. I mean, you will know it from elsewhere. I'm sure you would have come across it somewhere.
Yes, George. George, before
Freud went crazy over this particular character, right? So that's another clue.
Thank you, George. George, before we get to what the holy books of mythology tells us, now let's have a look at the. We heard the podcast from John Long. This is what he believes is the origin of man. George, the question is, the seas are rising, the land is drowning. It is time for us to build a new habitat to save our species from extinction. Build an Atlantis, perhaps. George.
Jerry, we've destroyed this planet so much, and so much of this planet, that it's going to be necessary to build, if you like, another Atlantis outside this planet, in another star, on another star, somewhere else. Earth is an Atlantis. Earth is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful planet, floating quite precariously, I might add, out in a most wonderful galaxy called the Milky Way. Thousands of brilliant, mesmerizing, and imagination spinning stars, brilliant galaxy. We can't not learn from our mistakes of what we've done to Earth if we're going to go to, if we can manage to go to this next planet that we might well call our Atlantis, our savior. Atlantis itself was not anything real. It was something that Plato imagined, and he mentioned it in a couple of his dialogues. You know, there was Atlantis, and Atlantis wanted to destroy Athens, and there's a little story about that, but it didn't exist. Okay, it is something that, in fact, that we always wish that there was another place that we can go to, because we messed up where we are now. So, yeah, go on.
I'm glad you said Atlantis among the stars, and I think mythological. But we are indeed lucky, George. As you've pointed out, we should do our very best to preserve the planet Earth. I don't want to pack up my violin, which I have in my back behind.
Yes, I can see your violin.
And go elsewhere.
Never heard you play it.
This will do my major nicely. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk about the humans and their stupid ways, as some people have pointed out. George, where did they come from? Who was the first man, and who was the first woman? George.
Well, if you're going to take the Judeo-Christian view,
yes.
Particularly Genesis, the bit in Genesis, you will think that you will be told that the first man was Adam, the first woman was Eve. God took a bit of clay and made Adam, and from him, while the poor bloke was asleep, God ripped out a couple of ribs, and out of those ribs, he made Eve, the woman, right? And then he told them, listen, and of course, they didn't have any clothes back then, because they didn't have any clothes manufacturers. You didn't need consumerism back then. It was only two of them anyway. So he said, look at how beautiful this paradise is. Paradise, the word means beyond the sunset, beyond the sunset of the sun, the sun. So look after it and look after yourself. Don't, the only prohibition that I can give you, he said, is see that tree there? That's the tree called the tree of knowledge. Now don't go there and don't pick a fruit from that. I don't want you knowing anything. I want you to be innocent. I want you to be empty of mental pollution, because that's what happens to us, you see. In this day and age, we hear so much rubbish that we are really polluted by all this stuff. We haven't got a mind of our own anymore. But of course, the story goes, Eve goes to the tree, and then all of a sudden the serpent comes around, and I have visions of women pretending to be serpents, in strip joints, places that I never go to, of course, and doing the alluring thing that the serpent did. And so the serpent, the snake, got Eve to bite a bit of that apple. Go on, it's really nice, and so she did. And of course, everything went bad from then on.
It didn't go apple shape; it went pear shape. George, what do your mythological friends say about Zeus? And I think Kronos, all the other gods like Apollo and Aphrodite and all the rest of the gang.
Stop.
Can we just? Sorry.
I'll tell you about it. You can't tell me about it.
I know. I'm asking you.
I'm your guest. You got to treat me nicely. Well, it's a huge story, so I'm going to really cut to the chase, as it were. All right. So I'm going to start from Uranos, or Uranus, as they say in Latin. Uranus, which is the sky. You have Uranos and Gaia. Gaia is Earth. All right. And they're, well, in fact, they're both brothers, they're siblings, but they make love and they have a lot of children. And Uranos was getting a little bit envious about this. Why is it that she can have children and I can't have children? Stephen Fry, whose books I absolutely love, he has a wonderful way of telling a story. Stephen Fry says that was the first time we showed that we have this womb envy, that males have this womb envy, that we envy the fact that a woman can procreate, can give birth, and we can't. So Uranos, very annoyed about that, kept pushing those kids back into her womb, right? Now, of course, eventually it's going to hurt. So even if you're a god, even if you're a primordial god. So she, as Kronos is born inside her, she teaches him how to use a scythe, the scythe that the farmers use to cut the wheat. And so when Uranos comes around, he pops out and cuts his genitals off, right? Now, the meaty part of the genitals fell on Earth, and all sorts of nasty creatures appeared from that. However, the semen from that falls into the sea just near an island called Kythera. When that semen fell into the sea, a huge froth came around, like dropping some of those soaps that we have, lots of froth. And out of that froth appears this goddess Aphrodite. Now, warning, people call Aphrodite the goddess of love. She's nothing of the kind. She's the goddess of beauty, but not of love. She's a vengeful, jealous, vindictive goddess. Very, very jealous. Huge histories about her character, what sort of a person she was. But she was the most beautiful goddess there was. Now, she swims around a bit and finds this huge shell, climbs on that, and starts guiding that shell towards Cyprus. We might have seen Botticelli's painting of her in a shell. So she goes there. That's pretty much how the gods were born. After that, however, there was a big war, and Zeus, another long story about how Zeus appeared, but in any case, Zeus comes out the winner. And Zeus has a very good friend called Prometheus. Prometheus was a titan, and so they're winning. And eventually Zeus looks down on Earth and says, Prometheus, mate, there's nothing on it. There's nothing on Earth. We've got nothing to play with. So Prometheus says, well, let me make men so you can play with men, right? So Zeus says, hey, go for it. So Prometheus picks up some soil from all over the land, some black soil, some pink soil, some yellow soil, some red soil, whatever it is. And then asks Zeus to spit on it. And he spits on it, makes a sort of a clay thing, then asks Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom, to breathe on that character, on that creature, right? And then leaves it there for Apollo, who is the sun, to cook it, to make it right. And eventually it becomes, and there's man, there's Jerry. And, and then Zeus, this is fantastic, mate. Now make him obey the gods. Prometheus says, why would I do that? He's got his own brain. He can obey whoever it is he wants. That made Zeus very angry, and their friendship that was the end. That was the end of their friendship. But we have only one man. We don't have woman yet, right? Anyway, Prometheus goes away. Man is around the place, and we still have darkness also, because Zeus hid the light into his chamber, in his bedroom. Prometheus didn't like that, so he goes and sneaks one day or night or whatever it is with a bamboo stick, picks up a bit of the flame and puts it on the bamboo stick, goes out and gives the light to humanity. Let there be light. So there was light, and from then on, males were able to see things. Zeus punishes Prometheus by sending him to what is called a big hole in the ground called Tartaros, and chains him in this huge rock. And an eagle would come around and get at his liver and just chomp at his liver. Huge punishment. And at night time, the liver would get better, but the daytime, the eagle comes back again and the torture continues. The other thing that Zeus has done, this is how vindictive he was, he asked Hephaestus. Hephaestus was the god of the forge, the fire, and making things, asked him to build a woman. So he builds a woman because Zeus knows that, well, first of all, even males can't stand males sometimes, let alone males standing female. And females certainly can't stand males the way they behave if they behave too male-like. So he thought that this is going to really mess up Prometheus' view. So he builds her name, and he calls her Pandora. Pandora, the first woman, right? We have Adam and Eve, so we have Eve, we have Pandora, and her name means all. Pan means all. Dora means gifts. So all gifts. And gets her to marry Prometheus' brother. Prometheus' brother is called Epimetheus. Prometheus was able to see into the future. Epimetheus, however, couldn't do that. He could only see in the past and talk about the past. Anyway, Prometheus and Pandora get married, and Zeus gives her this gift, what's called Pandoras Box. And in it, he put in all these nasty things, nightmares and illnesses and so on, all the ill winds that could possibly befall a man.
Is that the poison chalice, George? Sorry, George. I just, if somebody's giving a gift full of dangerous creatures and poison and all of that, surely. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. And Zeus warns Pandora and says, now listen, Pandora, I'm giving you this gift. It is a gift because I have taken away all the nasty things that could befall you and put them in there. So don't open it.
Oh, okay, yes.
Right? Don't open it.
Oh.
But he knew very well that because he asked to have that sentiment in her mind of curiosity. So she was curious. So when they got married and so on, and she opens the jar. It was a clay pot actually, and all the evil things fly out. So they're all around us now, thanks to Pandora. But by the time she sealed, the only thing that was that stayed in there was hope. And you say, why was hope a bad thing? Why was hope included in all of these other nasty things? Because hope can be quite nasty. You have this false hope. You're hoping something is going to happen and it doesn't happen, and so it's a false hope. Now I don't know where to take you from there, Jerry.
If I just, George, thank you. Look, there was lots and lots of very good elements that actually linked the creation from the mythological stories, plays, to what we heard on John Long's interview on ABC. And I thank you for that. And I think we need to go back to some of the lovely stories, probably on one after the other. So, and you can pick the sequence so that we have a continuation of the stories for those who are interested in your works. Now, if I can go back to the question again, and the question that we've put out to our listeners, and the books and the number of volumes that you have actually. Yes, very good, George. Thank you, George. Euripides and the Marble
Seasons.
Yes. Thanks again, George.
By the way,
Sorry, say that again.
autographing them as well.
Oh, yes. George will personally autograph the winner's name in each of the book tonight. So stay tuned. 10:30, we will announce the winners, and we will have the books available because George will be in our studios tonight. 94.1 FM, Egypt, Australia radio show. Thank you, George. Thank you sincerely for allocating your time, your wisdom, your absolute vast array of knowledge about the mystical um, uh, stories of ancient Greek. Thanks again for tonight's.
It was my utter pleasure. Thank you.